I'm gonna do Star Wars, The Force Awakens. Yeah. One that is about Star Wars, The Last Jedi. What's up, everybody? It's Jrod, the filmmaker, former film major, frequent fighting gamer from Philadelphia, and today we are here for another video. The last of a saga. Let's say that. If you've clicked on this video, you probably read the title and know what we're getting into. Also, if you see my intro, you know that we review Star Wars movies around here. We have ever since The Force Awakens, which was the first Ufilmee video I ever did. Ever. So if you want to check that out, I'll add a link in the description, as well as my Last Jedi review linked in the description below. But here, today, we are about to talk about Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker. I saw the movie twice. Once, I was a little late. I saw it like the week after it came out by myself. And then I saw it again when I went to Orlando, Florida, a couple days before I went to Galaxy's Edge.
Weird flex, but okay.
Without further ado, let's get right into this review, because I got, not a lot, but I got some things to say about The Rise of Skywalker. And before I get started, I just want to say, usually I avoid all reviews for something that I might review myself. But with Rise of Skywalker, it was a little bit harder. So after I had initially written my review, I decided to check out Kevin Smith's review. I don't regret it. I really enjoyed it. He added so much context to the film. And he was actually in the film himself, so he knew a lot about it that, you know, people like me had no idea. And so that made my second viewing of the film even better, because I had so many little Easter eggs and little moments to hold on to when I was watching it. I didn't actually see Kevin Smith's character. I missed it both times, but he told me he was in there. He was on Kajimi, and so next time I see it, that I'll look at him. But after that review, I also saw his podcast review that he did with Mark Bernardin, who has some different opinions than Kevin Smith, but it's okay. And then I watched a couple of clickbaity, YouTube reviews. I just watched a bunch of reviews that I didn't even retain. I just looked at them, put them out. But I can assure you that this review is 100% my own opinion. It is unaffected by any of the other reviews that I have watched. It's unaffected. Disney does not pay me, so if you guys want to say that in the comments, you would be wrong. I really do wish Disney would pay me, but they don't. So without further ado, let's really get into it. Now, personally, just as my too long didn't read overall review, I really enjoyed Star Wars Rise of Skywalker. It is my favorite film of this sequel trilogy. It really makes me excited to watch it, and I just have this feeling of I want to go back and see it again. I want to take it in. I want to watch the entire trilogy together. It gave me a good ending for not only the sequel trilogy, but also the Skywalker saga as a whole, which is really, what got us Star Wars fans into watching Star Wars. There were two moments that I didn't like, but those moments were each like just 5 seconds of the overall film, so it didn't take me out of it. Still, I love the majority of this film, and I'll tell you about those few moments before I get into what I like, since the dislikes are a lot shorter than the likes. I had two major problems with the film. Those two major problems were Luke contradicting himself from The Last Jedi, as well as the kiss. And we'll get to that later. So let's start with Luke contradicting himself. Right the day before I went to see Rise of Skywalker, I decided to watch The Last Jedi again. It was on Netflix. I just wanted to get that full idea of the story. And personally, if you go back to my Last Jedi review, I thought it was a good movie. I just didn't really like the way that it handled aspects of the story. I felt like it took certain things and dropped their execution. But rewatching it, I feel like I like it even more now. Like, there's some context in The Last Jedi that I feel like you really do need going into Rise of Skywalker. But in The Last Jedi, Luke had few lessons for Rey, about 3 total. And one of them that really stood out to me on my rewatching was Luke saying that the Jedi don't have the sole claim on good in the galaxy.
A force.
And inside you,
inside me. That same force.
And this is the lesson. That force does not belong to the Jedi. To say that if the Jedi die, the light dies is vanity. Can you feel that?
For some reason, this lesson went completely over my head the first 3 or 4 times I watched The Last Jedi. But this time, it really stood out to me. And it was a beautiful lesson if you think about it. I mean, you know, I love the Jedi. I'm a Jedi myself. I study the teachings. And it's like, it's hard to accept, but it's very true. If you think about the ratio of active Jedi in the galaxy currently to, you know, galaxies or planets in distress, it's like 1 to infinity. So to say that in the future we won't always rely on Jedi, we'll have to rely on soldiers and droids and just kind people and force-sensitive people who aren't Jedi, it's a great lesson because this film really does show you the importance of soldiers and droids and force-sensitive people who aren't Jedi. So I feel like moving forward, if there was another trilogy or even just another movie that moves forward in the time period, that's a lesson that you're gonna need to learn. The Rise of Skywalker and Master Luke comes back as a Force ghost, which I kind of expected. I love to see Luke in any stage on screen. His thing was kind of, no, Rey, you have to stop Palpatine. You have to stop the Sith because you are the Jedi. And Jedi equals good, Sith equals bad. No one else can do it but you. And that was kind of the theme that went through the end of the story. Of course, there was another Jedi. We'll get to that later. But Rey was the one who had to bring an end to this final order, this new Sith order, basically. And so I felt like that part was kind of really just took away from the importance of that lesson in The Last Jedi. Now, there were still a lot of non-Jedi who did help win this final battle. You got like Poe and Finn and Janna and Dio and BB-8, Chewbacca, C-3PO, R2. There were a lot of people who were really important in this battle, but I wish that, you know, we leaned into that moving forward in the Star Wars community, that it's not always going to be the Jedi. They're not the only people who can do good in the galaxy. Everyone has the capability to do good in the galaxy. The second thing that bothered me was the kiss. Now, if you've seen the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen the movie, you get to the climax of the film. Rey exerts all of her energy to stop Palpatine and dies. That was completely unexpected for me. At that same time, Kylo Ren, who got forcibly yeeted by Palpatine, comes back. That part was completely expected. And Kylo Ren decides to give all of his life force to Rey to bring her back. So that was great. I thought it was a perfect way to finish off the redemption arc. It was a perfect way to finish off the climax of this story specifically. And then they kissed. Now that was a part that was really weird, okay? I've seen the movie twice, like I said, and both times it's really awkward to watch that kiss. Because it doesn't set up for that. It doesn't seem like that is coming. Yes, you do have Rey admit that she did want to join Kylo Ren, but she wanted to join him as Ben Solo. She wanted him to come back to the Jedi so that they could work together. Great. But I didn't think that means she wanted to kiss him. I mean, if you look back at the other films, you've got them basically trying to kill each other, lightsaber dueling, chasing each other across the galaxy, imprisoning each other, and then you're telling me they did all this because they had a crush on each other? Like, they know how to force FaceTime each other, so why didn't they just link up, like Netflix and chill, you know? Maybe that's why Rey went to Snoke's destroyer in The Last Jedi, because she was just trying to Netflix and chill with Ben Swolo. And then creepy Snoke, who was Grandpa Palpatine, messed everything up. Huh. You know, that makes a lot more sense. This was basically fan service for people who love the ships. And if you don't know what I mean by ships, I'm not talking about the TIE Fighters and the X-Wings and the Millennium Falcon. You got Finray, Reylo, Finpo, Kylux, these random headcanon relationships that people use to make the story more interesting for themselves. Personally, I don't care about any of them unless you consider the one that says that Obi-Wan and Padme were having a secret affair in the prequels. That one's really interesting. But the rest of them, I didn't care for them. Like, of course, they help people, get more interested in the story and the relationships between these characters. But at this point, I was content that all these people were just good friends who were connected by their shared experiences and not their romantic interest for one another. Now with the kiss, it kind of seems like, and then you also have the whole, what was Finn gonna say to Rey the whole time? Is he secretly in love with Rey, chasing her around the galaxy? Is he gonna move on and start a life with Janna? Who knows? Who cares? I feel like in the Star Wars, the relationships are probably the least important part. So that was it. Those are my 2 dislikes. Of course, I talked about it for a minute, but out of the entire film, that was like 10 seconds of a 2+ hour film. So the rest of the film, I thoroughly enjoyed. I just love the way that this film handled the arcs, handled the saga. I feel like it was the perfect bookend to this big, massive, saga. And I felt like it handled the legacies of all of these characters really well, whether we're talking about the new characters, Rey, Finn, Poe, BB-8, or we're talking about the original trilogy characters like Luke, Leia, Lando, Chewbacca, C-3PO, R2. I feel like everyone got the perfect ending to their arc. They got just a great time to shine in this story, in this saga, at one point or another. Going into this film, I didn't want a Kylo Ren redemption arc at all. I wanted him to be the new big bad. I wanted him to lean all the way into it, and I wanted just this huge clash of good guys versus bad guys, the classic, But the way that the redemption arc was handled, I really enjoyed it. It didn't feel forced. It didn't feel fake. It felt like Kylo Ren genuinely wanted that redemption, and he genuinely worked for it. Another thing that I actually did write in the review, but I'm just thinking about now, the performances were great all around. If we're talking about John Boyega, Adam Driver, Daisy Ridley, we got great performances, and that's from everyone. I also loved how characters like C-3PO and Chewbacca really stood out in this movie because they are very important to the saga. I mean, there are some people who are diehard fans of Chewbacca and C-3PO, and C-3PO has been in every single Star Wars movie. That's just amazing to think about. Anthony Daniels, his legacy within Star Wars is just so huge, and I'm glad that he got a good arc to leave on. He was important to the story. He had to make a sacrifice for the team, but then in the end, he got his good ending. He got his happy ending where he got his memory back. He was with all his friends. We won the war, and we get to move on to see. So this film just really references every single part of the Star Wars fandom, which really made me happy. I mean, there are Easter eggs to the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, the animated shows, the Mandalorian, the comics, the novels, the expanded universe, the Ewok movie. There's really an Easter egg for anyone and everyone who has found something in Star Wars that they can relate to. If you're someone who's like, I don't really like the live action movies anymore, but I love the animated shows, there's something for you. If you love the EU and things that, you thought were just completely retconned because Disney took over, there's things in this movie for you. And I feel like no matter who you are, if you relate to any part of Star Wars, there's something in this movie for you. I really love the first act of the movie where we have our heroes basically going from planet to planet, treasure hunting almost. It kind of feels like a Indiana Jones movie, or even just it just feels like a departure from the normal Star Wars, but at the same time it showed me everything that I love. I love to see planets. I love to see people on those planets. I love the personalization. I feel like Star Wars has a lot of big wars, faceless masses, giant robots and automata destroying worlds and destruction on a planetary scale. I love it when they really go down to the personal scale, when you get to see people, you get to see plants, you get to see, the culture of all these different planets. Like in the film you have, I really do not remember the name of this planet, Pacillus? Something like that. The planet that had the desert and the festival. I really love that in this galaxy there's an entire planet-wide party going on. And then at that same time, if you go to a different planet like Kajimi, there's this giant militarized state where the First Order is basically has the entire planet on lockdown. I just love that dichotomy, and on both planets you get to see what the people look like, what the people care about, what are they doing at the time, what are they thinking. And that's just the part of Star Wars that gets me most excited, you know, just that personal level, the people humanizing Star Wars as opposed to, you know, faceless masses, automata, stuff like I said before. There were some things that we expected to be huge that really didn't matter, like who Snoke is, doesn't matter. Who the Knights of Ren are, doesn't matter. Who Rey is, it mattered. It mattered the whole time. That's what I said in my last review. Even if Rey's parents are not related to people who we already know, she matters because she is our central point and our focus for this new trilogy moving forward. So if her parents were really just junk traders who traded her for junk, or if they were secret Jedi assassins, it matters either way. So the importance of Rey and her backstory is there. Any hero story has that origin. It's a very important part of the hero mythos. And so personally, I can see why they went with the misdirection for who's Rey's parents. Are they someone? Are they no one? But I don't think they needed to. They should have just leaned in, given it to us slowly, gradually, and just let us, you know, figure out who Rey is piece by piece, like we do with any other character. But yeah, honestly, I'm looking at my review and I've said all my points plus more. So I think I'm going to leave it off there, but I just got one more question for you guys. Who had sex with Palpatine? Like, really? Ill? Who? I need to know. That's the explanation I need. Put it in a book, put it in a comic. I need to know who, because that's nasty. And tell me if you feel me. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.